Hello, happy Monday. My name is Joost Ouendag. You normally see me on Wednesdays every once in a while on Wanderlust Wednesdays. We mixed it up a little bit this week, and we're going to do the same thing in a few weeks from now. In 2 episodes, we will tell you all the things that we have in store for you in 2022. What's new? What is new in the way of itineraries? What is new on cruising on the rivers of Europe? What's new in the Mississippi? And in this particular episode, we're talking to Matt Grimes, who is the head of our nautical division and who has a great role to play in how we design new itineraries, and Jørn Henriksen, who spearheads our efforts on the expedition ships. So without any further ado, let's dive right in. Matt, can you, for starters, explain how you go about finding new places to discover and new cruises to enjoy?
Yeah, of course. Hi, Joost. It's great to be asked back to Viking.TV. I have a great job. I'm very lucky because we have guests who always want to explore new places in the world. So it's a continual production line trying to find new places to take our wonderful ships. The process is quite long and intense. We start with a very draft idea, as you've alluded to. That translates into some day-by-day itineraries. And then, of course, there's a long and complicated market research process, which, in fact, some of our viewers may be a part of, because we go to our past guests and we ask them their opinion on the new itineraries we're proposing. From the initial idea to actually appearing in a brochure, it can take up to 12 months. So that's the process. And today I think we're going to talk about some of the itineraries which are just coming out at the other end of that process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And would you say, I know that you're going to be talking a little bit about some of the new cruises we have in the North Atlantic, and we were just talking about this earlier. I think we rediscovered the North Atlantic, and Iceland in particular, in the wake of the pandemic, where Iceland was one of the first countries that opened up. And then what happened?
Well, you're absolutely right, Joost. Through the first shutdown, we were looking for places to take the ships. And Iceland came forward as being a really good and safe destination in terms of COVID. At the time, they had very low numbers. They're an island, so they could control their borders very well. And of course, the country itself is a fantastic destination. So we were able to create a short 7-night cruise, which of course was not so far away from the US, where most of our guests live. And we operated from early summer through to mid-September of this year. That proved to be extremely successful, extremely well booked, and that formed an idea to perhaps bring more Iceland into the itinerary mix in future years.
Okay, and what have you come up with?
Well, what have we come up with? There's actually 2 I'd like to talk about that touch on Iceland. The first one is iconic Iceland, Greenland, and Canada. This is a 15-day itinerary, which starts in New York, so easy to get to for a lot of our guests, travels through Canada, Atlantic Canada, touches on Greenland, which is, of course, a very remote and difficult to get to destination, and ends up doing a circumnavigation of Iceland with, I think it's 6 Icelandic ports before ending in Reykjavik. So it's really a terrific itinerary. Some of the highlights, we go to Lancemeadow. So I'm going to ask you a question back, Joost. What's special about Lancemeadow to Viking Cruises?
Well, in Lancemeadow, it's not too long ago, it was established that, yes, hundreds of years before Columbus, the Vikings were indeed the first people from the West to end up in North America. And we've always known this amongst Vikings, but we now have like irrefutable proof that was indeed the case.
Absolutely. You go straight to the top of the class, Joost. It is a fantastic archaeological site. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And of course, it has great ties to the company as well. Lance Meadow is right at the top of Newfoundland. So from there, we cross the Labrador Sea and head up north to Greenland. These aren't new ports. We already go to Greenland on an itinerary called In the Wake of the Viking. But we do go to Karkatok and also Nanortalik, which are two very small communities right on the very southern tip of Greenland, before we head east through Prins Christian Sund. Now, this isn't a destination we stop at, but it is an absolutely tremendous opportunity to do some scenic sailing through absolutely sort of wild and remote countryside. Joost, I'm not sure if you've done that yourself.
I have not been in Greenland. No. I have, and that must be next on your narration. I have spent time, on one of the first Iceland cruises, to explore that part of the north.
Then we'll put it on your to-do list for next season.
Very good.
But I highly recommend Greenland. It's a really unique destination, and quite simply, not many ships manage to make it there. It is quite out of the way. As you alluded to, we come out of Prins Christian Sund and we head further east up into Iceland itself. And we touch the coast in the sort of the top left corner at a small port called Isafjordur. And that is the first of 6 ports of call as we go around in a clockwise direction around the island of Iceland. Now, I know you've been to Iceland. Maybe you could share with us your favorite port.
My favorite port, I think Isafjordur was kind of because it's what is nice, and we often forget that. I particularly, because I spend so much time figuring out what we're going to do in the port once we're there. But some of the best experiences that you can have is sailing in and out of these ports. And Isafjordur is on a relatively decent long stretch where you have mountains on both sides. And when we were there, it was spring. It was late in the season, but Iceland has a short summer, so it was kind of late spring, and there was a lot of flowering going on, and it was just beautiful going in and out of Isafjordur.
Yeah, it's truly spectacular. It's also a pretty good place for whale watching as well.
Yes.
And during the summer season, I think your chances are extremely high.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember on the cruise I was on, everyone that went on the whale watching trip came back with rave stories. And the birds, of course, everyone that there were a lot of people that wanted to see puffins. And Isafjordur has an island where that is relatively undisturbed, and that's what you go there for. It's a puffin island. And everyone that came back from the puffin island was also just thrilled. Yeah,
it is renowned for wildlife. As is all of Iceland, to be fair.
Yeah.
If we continue around the coast, we go on to Akureyri, which is actually Iceland's second largest town. So I think they call it the capital of the north, but it's still a very small and very cute destination. But it does give us good access to the natural wonders of the north coast of Iceland, which, of course, Iceland is famous for its geothermal activity, and there are some geobaths you can visit from Akureyri.
Yeah.
So lots to do there. Continuing around the coast, we go to Seyðisfjörður, Djúpivogur, and then Jaime before finishing in Reykjavik. And Jaime is perhaps one to call out because it's not actually the island of Iceland. It's a small archipelago of islands just off the coast. And they're renowned for puffins. They have wonderful bird cliffs on the island. and it's a great place to spot this most iconic of North Atlantic birds. From there, we go to a port you're very familiar with, of course, which is Reykjavik, capital of Iceland, and indeed where most of the population live. And from there, if you choose to leave the ship there, of course, it's a relatively short flight back to the US, or indeed to Europe.
Perfect. And then what do you do if you want to stay on the ship?
Well, of course you should stay on the ship, because the ship then continues on from Reykjavik all the way to Bergen in the southern west coast of Norway. Bergen, of course, is actually the home port of all our ships, and if you like, something of our spiritual home. There is a tiny bit of duplication here if you do one cruise and stay on to the next, because we start in Reykjavik and we go back to Isafjordur before finally.
Matter. You can go there twice.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So we call again at Isafjordur. This again is a 15-day itinerary, and then we spend a couple of days at sea, and we head north and we head east, and of course that puts us into the Norwegian region of Svalbard. Now, Svalbard is an incredibly special place. You will, for those viewers who've watched some of your presentations on the expedition ship, will know that we take the expedition ship there. And whilst the majority of Svalbard is designed for expedition activities, there is actually a relatively sizable settlement at a place called Longyearbyen, where we're able to take the ocean-size vessels. So we can go to the capital of Longyearbyen, and we'll spend 2 days there. So you have an overnight. And of course, that gives you a great deal of opportunity to get out into the local area to try and find some of the wildlife that live up there. And I'll come to you again with a question, Joost. In terms of wildlife, what's the thing you'd most like to see in Svalbard?
My bucket list is polar bears and walruses. And I think polar bears, you have a relatively good chance. It's all, you can never predict this, of course. But walruses, I think, are maybe a bit of a stretch. And then there's Arctic foxes, and there's lots of different birds. There's some phenomenal bird cliffs not far from Longyearbyen. So there's a lot, but everyone's, top predator, as biologists would say, is the polar bear.
Absolutely, and that's what a lot of people go to Svalbard for. Of course, we hope to see polar bears, but not too close. But they do come in and around the settlement of Longyearbyen and around the airport area. So there is a reasonable chance to see a polar bear very close to the human settlement. There's other stuff to do, of course. We do some excursions, as you know, out to the countryside where you can do some dog sledding. There's rib boats to go around what is a small fjord system. And there's also something of a industrial history to Svalbard, because it's quite a large mining community. And I know that some of the activities that you organise will go out and see some of those industrial relics, shall we say, when mining was part of daily life in Svalbard. Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's a really great chance to go on a relatively large ship to a relatively small port. Svalbard is very special. From there is nowhere else to go except south. We're literally at the top of the world in Svalbard. So we go south through the Barents Sea, and we end up at Honningsvåg, which is the port for North Cape, right at the top of Norway. This is a port we go to also during the In Search, I beg your pardon.
In the wake of the Vikings. Oh no, Northern Lights.
Midnight Sun. When we're searching the midnight sun in the middle of the summer, We go all the way up from Bergen to Honningsvåg.
Yes.
That's the top of Norway. From there, we string our route down through what we call the Inside Passage, the coastal cruising that Norway is so famous for. And we wind our way down first to Tromsø, which is the capital of northern Norway. And then we weave our way through the Loddigan Channel, a very small and scenic channel, which separates the Lofoten Islands from the mainland. And we do make a stop in Lofoten, famous for its geological features. The mountains are absolutely spectacular, and there is some great sort of local life activities we can do, and find out how people live in these remote and distant places. One thing in particular, because I'm maritime, I point out there, is the Trollfjord cruise, which is one of Norway's most spectacular cruises. There was a time when we were allowed to take the ship into Trollfjord itself, but now the rules have been tightened, and we can only go on a smaller local boat. But it's a fantastic thing to do, to go into this fjord where the mountain tops tower above you. I'm not sure if you've done that, Joost, but again, we should put it on the bucket list for next year, you and I.
Okay, very good, very good. Now I hear that in my old neck of the woods, I spend a lot of time in Southern California. We also have we're doing a little bit more in North America next year.
Yeah, we are. That's a good one to highlight. Actually, it's a new itinerary. It's called Pacific Coast Explorer. It lasts 9 days and sails between Los Angeles and Vancouver, and in fact it operates in both directions. This is new for us. Some of the ports there are new as well. For example, Santa Barbara in Southern California, and when we go north from there, we go into Oregon to the historic port of Astoria. Now, I'll admit that's not somewhere I've been lucky enough to go, but Joost, I think you've had some experience of Astoria.
Yeah. Astoria. Actually, I got married in Santa Barbara, and San Francisco, and all the way to Vancouver. The Pacific Northwest, but the entire Pacific coast is just spectacular. It's well. Having lived in Southern California for a long time, I'm biased, but I think the West Coast is, has some of the most spectacular scenery. And Astoria is an interesting place. You're not far from where Lewis and Clark ended up, discovering the Pacific at the end of their long journey. So it's a place that has a lot of history as well.
Yeah, and it's actually the last stop in the US on this itinerary before we head into Canada, and the first call in Canada is actually Victoria. So we stop just short of Vancouver and have a day on Vancouver Island, and that's somewhere I am familiar with. It's a terrific destination. Like some of the Icelandic ports, again, it has great whale watching opportunity, and I must say the impression left by my people, the British, is still evident in that part of the world, especially in some of the gardens and some of the architecture that you see around the city. So,
in the high tea at the Empress.
Yes,
that's a very big thing to go for high tea at the Empress Hotel.
Yeah. So a lovely spot. The final stop on the cruise before we end the cruise in Vancouver itself, and this one, I think the first departure is in spring of next year. So if people are looking to travel but not go too far from home, April the 9th, 2022 will be the first departure from Los Angeles. And I think that would be a lovely little addition to our portfolio of cruises.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Matt, I think that's all we have time for. Thank you. This was interesting, especially also the bit about how you go about, finding new places, and the fact that we do ask you, our audience, our guests, where would you like to go next, and what do you think? We do that quite a bit. Yes, and then great things come out, like our Northern Atlantic cruises and our Pacific Explorer. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Joost. Thanks for having me along.
To give you an idea of where we are with our expedition project and the preparations for our maiden season of Octantis and Polaris, there's no better person to speak to than Jørn Henriksen, and Jørn right now is at the shipyard in Suvik in Norway. Jørn, how is it going there?
It's going very well. We have about 1,300, 1,300 people working on board the ship in multiple shifts across the day. And there is a buzz and there's an activity that is just immense on board the ship. We have the full crew ready to embark. Some of them already did embark yesterday. We have the next wave of embarkations on Saturday. That means that crew are moving on board the ship and they start living there. The Wi-Fi is up, and we're having inspections in the galleys very near on Friday. And we start seeing venues, rooms, public spaces being ready to be taken over from the yard to Viking. So we have started moving equipment on board to the different storage spaces, and we're testing equipment every day. And we're testing on board the ship, we're testing off the ship, and we're doing training with the crew. So it's a lot going on. It's very exciting, and the good news is that we're on schedule to depart from Norway just before Christmas, and we've already booked the pilot to take us out of port.
And then the long journey to Antarctica starts. Excellent.
Yes.
And I understand, because you sent me pictures from Suvik every once in a while, and I understand that you spent a lot of the last weeks on the water. A lot of testing needs to happen on board the mother vessel, but we have all these small little vessels that are so crucial for the experience in Antarctica. Just the other day, I got a picture of you in a Zodiac. There has been some, we've internally shared some spectacular footage of the special operations boat. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. Well, the Zodiac is this iconic inflatable boat that is a staple in expedition cruising, and we have 17 of them. They're all ready to go. Most of them are on the water, and we train with them. That means that we're every crew member that is operating these boats are becoming acquainted with how it is. There's always very minute variations from one operator to the other, and we're getting the last. We have the last model of the Zodiac Mk5 expedition model that is also modified and customized for our particular needs. And we're essentially getting acquainted with this tool as we speak. So we have training every single day, and one of the other managers or team leaders, he came back to the hotel yesterday, and he needed to go to the sauna very quickly, because they had trained on man overboard, and he was the man overboard, and he had been up and down into the water about 16 times. And they had applied different methods of getting him back into the Zodiac. Mm-hmm. So that is not something that will happen when we're out there operating. But in an outlier case, we will have knowledge and different methods of retrieving people from the water. That's just a matter of training and safety training.
So in order to make sure that our guests always stay safe, you have one sad person in your crew who needs to be dunked into the water 16 times in one day.
Exactly.
You're very thorough in making sure our guests are always safe.
Yeah. That's obviously the single highest priority, and the rest follows. And yeah, it's really life or real conditions here in Norway as well. I sometimes say that Norway at this time of year, mid-December, is very similar in terms of temperature and conditions to the Antarctic Peninsula. Mm-hmm. So we have water that is almost down to freezing. We have sleet, we have snow on the ground. So it's actually an excellent place to start out and finalize the building and do the training for an expedition operation in Antarctica, doing it midwinters in Norway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have another question, because a few days ago you showed some pictures of a small little toy. You call it an otter. That we are looking into using for science. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I can. We already have a lot of scientific equipment on board the ship, and one of the cornerstone scientific tools that we have is a multi-beam sonar. That is say, a fish finder, a very advanced fish finder, so to speak. It doesn't send out. It sends out multiple beams in a geometric shape, and it can sound down to about 600 meters below the seafloor, about 2,000 feet. And it gives us an extremely accurate and detailed picture of the surface, and that is in geophysics, geomorphology, a key tool where you can see, for example, scratches where an iceberg have drifted over the seafloor, and the keel has scraped the seafloor, and those are actually very important things for glaciologists and scientists to learn something about. And this tool, we are now testing a deployment method for this multi-beam, and that's a small catamaran, unmanned, remotely steered vehicle that can operate in a number of different ways. You can set a swath pattern. You can steer it from your phone, and it will go to the particular area we have decided to survey, and we can have it operating, and it will send back the images in real time to a station. That station could be either on board the ship, it could be in a Zodiac, or in another craft, and it can operate autonomously for the whole day. So it's a set and forget system, though the environment in Antarctica consists of crash ice, small pieces of ice from glaciers, disintegrated icebergs, and things like that. So we might have to shepherd it a little bit, and we're training on how to do that operation. Mm-hmm. And obviously, any plan and strategy facing reality needs to be changed. So we're leaving room in all these little plans to adjust to the environment at hand, and we just know that it's going to shift and change as we go along. But this little otter is going to be extremely helpful, because as it's unmanned, we can send it, for example, closer to an iceberg or to a glacier front than we could if there was people in the boat or the craft. And that actually is a huge advantage in conversations with Cambridge University and Scott Polar Research Institute. They describe that as a scientific gap, because unmanned vehicles for doing this service is the cutting edge on science, logistics, and operations. So we're really dipping our toes into something that has not been seen in areas like Antarctica before, and we're proofing the concepts before we go.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. So and there's a rumor out there that Jørn, because you are the head of this entire operation, but there's a rumor out there that what you really would like to do all day long is steer a special operations boat. Is that true?
Well, there's some truth in the rumor. However, what I really would like all day long is to make sure that we get out of the gates with the operation as a whole, and that the special operation boats becomes one of the marquee parts of our expedition product and our expedition ships. We not only have the special operation boats, we also have an infrastructure on board that is tailored to the special operation boats. We have this hydraulic slipway system that extends out through a hatch in the back of Viking Octantis and Viking Polaris, and that enables us to board the special operations boats inside the hangar. So in a safe and dry environment, there's no falling in the water when you take that step across into the boat, and then the boat is slid, or it slides out the back of the ship into the water, and we can also capture and recover the boats the same way. So that's a part of the operation and a part of the experience to slide on this say magic carpet out the back of Viking Octantis and then being picked up, and that enables us to do this operation in a variety of environments that previously was totally out of bounds for any expedition ship, because I sometimes say we can pull the handbrake of the ship, and then we can deploy and recover special ops boats when we are in transit. In practicality, that means that we're using a protocol where obviously the captain is in charge, or where we move into dynamic positioning mode with the ship to secure integrity. Because when we open the hatches, we are then allowing or potentially allowing water to ingress. So there's a number of steps before we start the operation like that to secure stability of the mother vessel, and then we can launch the operation, special ops boats, and do scenic cruising almost wherever we are. These are extremely seaworthy boats, and whenever we go out in these special operation boats, they keep on impressing us with their seaworthiness, their maneuverability, and the sense of safety you have when you are on board is just immense. Just as a fun fact of the special ops boats, they are 13 and a half meters long, and from full speed they can stop in 8 meters. So that means that you can go down across the waves in 30, 35, almost 40 knots, and then you can put on the brakes, so to speak. In reality, it's a water jet stream that is pointed in the opposite direction, so it's pointed forward. So it acts as a jump brake, and you can stop the boat in almost half the length of a boat length. This is obviously a maneuver we won't do with guests. And it's a maneuver that we do under very controlled circumstances here in Norway. But it's to test the outer limits and the capacity of that boat, as we do with all other boats, to figure out where the limits are. Limits that we won't push in operations, but we know we have that up the sleeve if needed.
And
so,
of course, you will never bump into a stray penguin or so.
Yeah,
no. You can
we
break for penguins.
Yes, it will be good for penguins. That being said, in all wildlife and encounters, and we go out wildlife watching essentially with these boats, penguins, seals, whales, and we have protocols for how to operate these boats, and we do train in how they operate. Say if they're two boats together, how do you position the boats compared to the wildlife to make sure that they have that they're never overcrowded, that they're never caught with a corridor out that is in the wrong direction, that we keep the right distances, not to stress, and that we have a very low impact and respectful interaction with the wildlife. So it's not only kind of the technicalities of operating these things, it's also how we have the lowest possible and the most respectful interaction with the immense wildlife we're going to see in Antarctica that we're training on as we speak.
Excellent. It sounds like we have exciting weeks and months ahead of us. Well, yes. Jørn, thank you so much for a taste of what things are like behind the scenes. And obviously, like everyone that has been booked on our Antarctic cruises and what comes beyond that, can't wait to see it all in action. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And that was it for today. Thank you for watching. In another few weeks, early in January, we will be back with the second episode that deals with all the new things that we have in store for you. I will be talking to colleagues on the Mississippi River project and some folks that deal with our river ships. We'll tell you what's new there. Have a great new year, and we'll see you on the other side.